Good day, I am GeneralLotz, and I have and always shall be a Star Trek fan. Although, unlike with others, I am not so focused on Trek that I care not about other series or stories. I would never say that Star Trek is better than Star Wars, nor would I say that Star Wars is better than Star Trek. I like Star Trek because I enjoy the stories set within its universe. I enjoy the characters that undertake these adventures, and I enjoy the worlds in which they inhabit. I was introduced to Star Trek when I was still young by my mother. She grew up in the time when the original series was aired as reruns and was considered a rebel in those days for being a girl who liked Star Trek, as at that time Star Trek was still seen as primarily a male-oriented show. She first introduced me to the original series, and I enjoyed it well enough, but I would move on to TNG and enjoy it far more, as at that time I felt it was more mature. And then I moved to Deep Space Nine and really loved it. And I felt that it was able to mix the seriousness of TNG with some of the more entertaining aspects of TOS. When I first watched Voyager, I liked it well enough, I enjoyed the good episodes immensely, and at the very least found the bad episodes to be boring. Really, I didn't hate it, and in fact bought it on DVD before any other Star Trek show because I hadn't been able to see them all on TV. Overall, I felt that Voyager was not a terrible show, it just wasn't as good as what had come before. I was able to see most of Star Trek Enterprise on TV, including that interesting series finale, and like with Voyager, I just felt it wasn't as good as what had come before. I like all the Star Trek TV shows, and when I first saw them, I liked them a great deal, and I just ignored the bad episodes. And really, like with any TV show, you will get a bad episode here and there. As you can see, I'm a Star Trek fan, but not a crazy one where I will say that Janeway is a terrorist or Archer is an idiot. I have even revised my opinions of the various Star Trek shows over the years. As a youth, I felt that TOS was too over-dramatic, at least until I started rewatching it recently. Upon rewatching it, I found TOS to be not nearly as bad as I remembered. Come to find out, the first two seasons are every bit as good as TNG would be. It was only in the third season that the crap that is often parodied would be seen. TNG I once held as better than all the others, but after watching it again, I found that the characters were a bit stilted in places, and that the first two seasons were really slow. But in Season 3, the show really started to shine until it started to decline later in its run. Deep Space Nine I always really liked, but didn't really like it as much as TNG at first. Once I got it on DVD and started watching it in sequence, I realized just how amazing the show really was. The writing was way more consistent than TNG's, and the characters actually felt like real people, and it didn't slump at any time in its run. For a time, I hated Voyager as I had jumped on the VGR hate bandwagon. Goes to show you how much internet opinions can influence your own. Upon rewatching it, my opinion returned to the pre-internet one of, it was good, not great. Enterprise works the same way. Hated it due to internet opinions, returned to the original opinion of, it's okay, after rewatching it again. I am a man who can change his opinions if a good case can be made, backed up with legitimate evidence. I never go into anything wanting to like it, but nor do I go into something wanting to hate it. So, STD. Thanks to the internet, I heard a great deal about the show before it ever came out. The consensus was, it was going to be crap. It was going to be a prequel, and the show was going to be SJW written all the way. And even the ship was going to look like garbage as well. Before the show came out, I saw the ship, and due to being a fan, knew that it was the same design that was going to be the Phase 2 Enterprise. And before the show was ever released or even discussed, I had seen that concept art and was very happy that the Enterprise retained the classic and good-looking design. So before the show even came out, I was wary of it. By that point, Star Wars was long since dead, the alien universe long since ruined by Prometheus, and while I liked the JJ Treks, I liked them as movies and felt that if there was a new Star Trek TV show, that it would just reboot the franchise yet again. When I heard that Discovery was going to be an actual prequel set in the Prime universe, I felt even more trepidation. Star Wars had gone the prequel route, and look how that turned out. By the time the show launched, I could have cared less. and so for some time I just went with what the review said. It was SJW crap, but like the fool I am, I couldn't help myself. I wanted to see if the show was really as bad as everyone said it was. This was due to many factors, one of which was TOS. I had read a number of reviews on all the various original series episodes, and then I decided to rewatch the show, only to find out that the reviews I read were wrong in every conceivable way. TOS was better than they said it was, and the only way I found that out was by watching the bloody thing. What set me watching Star Trek Discovery in motion was a rewatch of the episode Mudd's Women. The reviews say it's a horribly sexist episode with bad acting. Upon watching it, it actually has an anti-sexist message, and was the exact opposite of all the various reviews. And so, I got it into my head that maybe, just maybe, people overreacted when it came to Star Trek Discovery. Perhaps it might actually be good. And what if by letting other people's opinions be my own, I was really missing out on a great show? As you shall come to see, STD is actually worse than the reviews would lead you to believe. I was 10 minutes into episode 1, and I was already pissed off at the show. Really, the reviews have not done the horrid nature of this show justice. At first, I was only going to give the first 5 episodes a watch, but something happened. I kept wanting to see if the show would get better. I had noticed that the show had some good elements here and there, and I felt that maybe the show might stabilize and become, if not good, then at least passable. It never did. For every good thing the show did, it did 2 horrible things that actually invalidated the one good thing it did. This actually makes the show worse than bad. A bad show one can mock. This show lulls you into a false sense of security and then kicks you right in the testicles. I am not doing this review show to pick low-hanging fruit. I am not doing this review show to act as some public service announcement. Because seriously, if you want to watch it, you're going to do it anyway. I am reviewing this series for one reason. Duty. I have a duty to make my voice heard and to not give my tacit approval to such a betrayal of Star Trek. It is my duty to show that this program does not deserve the name Star Trek. And it is my duty to not just say that this show is bad, but to show you all the reasons why it is bad. To provide evidence why this show, out of all the Treks that have come before, is by far the worst Star Trek of all time. As with any review, the plot will be summarized, and the review of each episode will be broken down into several different elements. We will take close attention to the worst part of an episode, the one bad thing that really stands out from all the rest. We will take a look at the best part of an episode, as there are some good bits to each episode, even if they are very fleeting. We are also going to look at the one word that, if changed, could have fixed the whole episode. Literally, there are some episodes where if one word or one term was changed, the whole episode could have been improved. And lastly, we will take a look at how the episode could have been made good while retaining the same basic plot. The episodes will be looked upon with 2 different perspectives. One, from the Trek fans' perspective, how and in what way did an episode completely ignore or break canon? And 2, the general audience member's perspective. The general audience member who likes Trek because it's an entertaining show and not because it's more than just a TV show. Case in point, a Star Trek fan can fill a book with how wrong the Klingons are. A general audience member will do one thing when shown the Klingorks: laugh uproariously. They don't care about the subtle nuances of Klingon culture, but when shown this, and then hear them grunting and growling, their only recourse is to bow to the absurd. No joke, I showed the Klingorks to several people who knew what Star Trek was in only the most basic of levels, and every one of them, without fail, burst out laughing. And this design is really laughable. It's over-exaggerated, over-designed, to the point of absolute absurdity. I am going to be looking at this from the general audience member's perspective to show that this is a terrible show even without the Star Trek legend backing it up. And we shall be keeping a running count of all my get-ups. When watching this show, I would often pause the bloody thing, get up, and start ranting about what I just saw, which made for very good practice for this particular review show. Now we all know this is supposed to be an SJW show, right? So of course I gotta cover all the ways this is an SJW show, right? Wrong. This show is bad even without taking into account the SJW crap. And for the general audience member, they might not have even heard of the term intersectionality. Hell, a Star Trek fan might not have heard the term either. So they would hate the show not because of an SJW reason, but just because of what they see in the show itself. I will say this though, SJW aside, the writers likely felt that what they were doing was making canon better than canon, or more canon than canon. Old Trek was stupid and old, and these new writers felt that they were going to fix it while still keeping some of the names for the hardcore fans. Really, SJW aside, that is monumental arrogance that would make a Romulan greener than usual. And so, next week, we shall be embarking upon a mighty journey to see just why STD is terrible. We shall embark on a mighty journey to see why it betrays Star Trek in all its forms. And we shall try to discover why this show deserves to not be renewed for a second season. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good Star Trek TOS, and good Star Trek TNG, whatever makes you happy. If you want to see more Star Trek Discovery ranting, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you TV show reviews.